this year far too often, and that is the irresponsibility of individuals with weapons that are falling in the hands of one, our children, that results in either death or serious injury, and falling into the hands of criminals who use this to commit violent crimes across the city of New Orleans. So the tragedy that occurred on last night in the 8600 block of Apple, early evidence indicates that this may have been a self-inflicted gunshot wound by a 2-year-old child, resulting in the child's death. Homicide is currently investigating this incident, and it remains an active investigation, more specifically with regards to who is responsible for that weapon. Child abuse is working hand in hand with homicide on this investigation. The two detainees were in fact the parents, and there still are some unanswered questions as to the responsible party for the death of this child, unfortunate death of this child. So again, we've seen too many times this year this type of injury has occurred, or this type of incident has occurred. Remember, just back in April, we had a 3-year-old who found her brother's weapon in the 400 block of Burgundy that resulted in that child's losing her life. In which case, Donald Bartholomew was arrested and charged with negligent homicide in this particular case. So far in 2022, we've had 6 incidents of injuries to our youth as a result of an accidental discharge or negligent injury. And that is non-fatal. We've had 3 negligent homicides this year. 2 of the 3 were children, a 2-year-old as well as a 3-year-old. So at this point, we're just asking our residents to be more responsible with your weapons. So everyone has a constitutional right to carry a firearm, of course, but we need to do so responsibly. In over 20% of our reported auto burglaries this year, a firearm was taken, and that's very concerning. So we're asking you, please, do not leave your weapons in your vehicles. It is of no use to you. You cannot protect yourself if your weapon is in your vehicle and you're in your residence. Do not leave your weapon in a place where a curious child may access this weapon. It is always the responsibility of an adult to prevent unauthorized access to a weapon. You cannot rely on a curious child to avoid handling an improperly secured weapon. It appears as though some people, somehow, some way, see firearms as less dangerous. That somehow leaving a weapon loaded on a table, on a chair, on a bed, or anywhere out in the open is an acceptable way to handle a weapon. And frankly, that is just not the case. We not only need you to think about where and how you secure these weapons, we also need you to have direct and honest conversation with our children to let them know how dangerous weapons are. We need to properly secure them in a safe, again, never leaving them in a vehicle. So for our young children, make gun safety a priority of the normal safety conversations you have with your children. Keep the language simple. For example, if you see a gun, don't touch it, tell an adult right away. Assure children will not get in trouble if they tell an adult that they see a weapon. Give them an environment so that they can speak to you honestly and earnestly. And repeat this conversation on a daily basis. For our adolescents and our teens, include guns in your general conversation, again, about topics just as you do with topics about drugs, alcohol, and drunk driving. Advise teens to immediately leave any situation where there's an unsecured gun in their presence. Tell them to always assume that a weapon is loaded. Give your teen strategies to get out of a situation where a gun is present. Tell your teen to blame you as a parent, and tell your friends, hey, my mom or my dad just texted me I have to leave. Anytime you see a weapon, they need to remove themselves from that situation. And for everyone, talk to them frequently, just as you would about any other crucial safety issue. Make sure they understand that any situation where a gun is present is a dangerous situation. Repeat these conversations regularly, on a daily basis if necessary. Again, we've seen too much senseless tragedy in this city and this country with the increases that we have seen in violent crime. We need to do a better job to making sure children don't have access to unsecured firearms. And this is a plea from myself to the citizens of New Orleans. We have to do a better job of securing our firearms. If you're not concerned with the safety of the citizens, be concerned for your own youth, your own kids. We're seeing this far too often, and we would just want to take this opportunity to bring awareness to this senseless trend that we're seeing, and asking you to help us, help you, and help keep our city safe by doing your part in securing your weapon in the responsible fashion. With that, Gary, I'll answer any questions that they may have.
Stay on topic for the first round.
Chief, the detainees, were they arrested? Have they been charged?
No one has been arrested at this time. There's still an open and an active investigation. Again, there are still numerous unanswered questions, but I can say that, again, evidence allows us to believe that this was a self-inflicted wound. We also have a weapon in our evidence, in our custody as well.
Was the gun registered?
That is a part of the investigation right now. That is still a part of our investigation right now.
We're not sure whose gun it was, how it got in the house, or any of that.
That is those are the unanswered questions that we're still trying to sort through at this time.
Advocate?
You said there had been 3 incidents where a child had been injured by a weapon unsecured. What was the third incident?
It's 2 of the 3. We had 3 negligent homicides this year. 2 of the 3 were involving youth, involving a juvenile. One was, I believe, a 19 or 20-year-old adult that occurred in May. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, you?
Was there any gun locks found on the property?
Not to my knowledge, no, ma'am. Not right now, no. And that is something that we're asking. The gun safety locks, or the safe themselves, or the locks themselves. We're encouraging our citizens to invest in these. It matters, and it is truly worth it, especially when you're talking about your own child's life.
So you did say the 2 parents were detained?
Yes, they were detained. They have been questioned, and there's still some more questions that has to be answered. And we're still processing this scene to determine who is actually responsible for this child's death.
And they have been released?
They have been released as of right now. Yes, sir.
Do we have any other questions?
What
Yes.
would the potential charge be?
I would think negligent homicide, because they were negligent in the handling of this weapon, whomever that individual may be.
Roxanne?
Chief, 7 people shot yesterday. 3 of those individuals died. The city council president, Maria Moreno, actually just sent a press release out saying that New Orleans is on pace to have the highest murder rate in the country, and more homicides, and the most homicides in almost 30 years by the end of the year. So I just want to get your thoughts on that. And I know the NOPD is doing 12-hour shifts and Operation Golden Eagle. And what are your thoughts when you hear that?
So again, as I said last week in front of the council, I think that is an unfair statement. If you look at what occurred in the 90s, that's 30 years ago. We were averaging 400 to 500 murders a year. So there's no way that I believe we're going to get to 400 murders this year. So again, I believe that is an unfair statement, an unfair assessment. We just have to continue to do our due diligence and remaining engaged. We removed numerous guns off the streets just last week after implementing this 12-hour shift, and we removed even more this week. So we continue to remain engaged. We have to also, in my opinion, look at the mentality. This is not a situation in which police is going to handle alone. We cannot handle this alone. There are some underlying issues. We're talking about disparities in education, disparities in job opportunities, disparity in educational opportunities. That is not a police issue. And then there's also some mental health issues. That is not a police issue, and we're going to need support. What we are doing as a law enforcement agency is dealing with the after effects of the culmination of all of this. And we need to work together, the council, the police department, and everyone else to try to find adequate solutions.
Do you think it'll take time when we look at Operation Golden Eagle? In other words, we're not going to see results from that week, in a week or 2 weeks, right?
So, I mean, when you talk about time, we want things to happen now, immediately. The reality of it is it will not happen immediately. What we are seeing now did not just happen. This grew over time. This festered over time. This hasn't festered over the last 3, 4, 5 years. We're talking about decades in the working. And what we need to do now is try to figure out how, again, collectively work together to get in front of it.
We have time for a couple more.
General question, Chief. What do you say to those people out about 3 people being shot on the end of the French Quarter. They hear about innocent people being shot on the interstate. They hear about crime in the French Quarter. What do you tell those folks? I know that you're trying, the state police are trying, but what do you tell those folks that are now on the fence about whether to come to the city and determine whether it's
Well,
safe or not?
again, what we're seeing here in New Orleans is not unique to New Orleans. So I don't think we should isolate or put New Orleans on an island as to this is just happening in New Orleans. This is something that's happening in every major city across America. And as such, just know that the New Orleans Police Department, coupled with our state and federal partners, are working our hardest and the best that we can to ensure the safety of not just our citizens, but our visitors alone. I mean, we had a successful Mardi Gras. We had a successful Jazz Fest. We had a successful French Quarter Fest. So we continue to be diligent and intentional in our deployment strategies to ensure the safety of everyone.
Just one follow-up if I could there, I'm sorry. Specifically with the interstate shootings, are you sure that there's not a person out there shooting people?
I'm absolutely positive there's not a sniper. These are all individual and isolated incidents, and we have evidence to prove that, and we know for sure in some instances, there may have been some intentional victimized. So victims may have been intentionally victimized. So I am absolutely positive there's not a sniper or one individual that's targeting individuals along the interstate corridor in New Orleans East.
All right, we'll get the last question to Fox 8.
Chief, there was an incident, some video that we saw Dowman and Chevron on June 14th, looked like some type of chase. NOPD officer was behind the vehicle that ran through an intersection and crashed into another vehicle. Can you explain what was happening there?
Yes. So what I will say, our force investigation team, FIT is investigating that. What we've seen from the very beginning, or what we're looking at right now, is that it appears as though the officers did what they're supposed to do. They attempted to engage an individual that committed a crime, and in doing so, they activated their lights. And we can clearly see while activating their lights, they're attempting to radio in their actions. And then at the same moment, this individual crashes through an intersection, striking 4 vehicles. I think what we really need to take a look at is that individual's responsibility in disregarding the officer's signal, that individual's responsibility in disregarding traffic light and causing this crash. We continue to look at what the officers are doing, but the officers are doing what we need them to do, and that's to be engaged. This happened within 4 seconds from the activation of the lights to the crash occurring. So we can't say it was a pursuit per se, but we're still looking at all aspects of it. We always use any incident as a learning opportunity for us all, but I truly believe that the officers did what they were supposed to do and what we are asking them to do in a situation like that.
What were the injuries? Did anybody die?
No one expired from that. We may have some minor injuries as a result of the crash, but no one died as a result of
All right,
this.
guys, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Welcome back. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Guys, if you have any follow-ups, send them our office. We'll try to get them to you